Katelyn Markham was 22, 2 days away from her birthday, when she vanished from her apartment in Fairfield, Ohio. Her purse was still on the counter, her phone, her car keys, her dog, all there. Everything except her. The front door was unlocked. The lights were still on. Her fiancé said she'd gone to bed early, but when her father arrived the next morning, the only sound was her dog scratching at the door. No forced entry, no blood, no goodbye. Just a silence that would stretch for 12 years, until the day they found her body 50 miles away. What happened inside that quiet apartment? And why did it take over a decade to learn the truth? If you love true stories that stay with you long after they end, make sure you're subscribed. Because every week, we uncover the cases that were too disturbing to ever make it to Netflix. Before her name became a headline, Katelyn Markham was an artist. She painted faces that smiled wider than hers ever did, hung sketches around her apartment, and dreamed of moving to Colorado after graduation. She worked part-time at a bridal shop, fitting other people's dresses while planning her own. Friends called her calm, dependable, the one who remembered birthdays and brought snacks to every shift. Her fiancé, John Carter, called her his forever. They'd been together since high school, living quietly above a neighbor who said they never even argued loud. That Friday night seemed normal. Caitlyn texted John goodnight. She posted a quote on Facebook, "Love is patient." Then the messages stopped. Her phone's signal froze at 12:09 a.m. inside the apartment. After that, nothing. No calls, no movement. Her dog barked for hours, waiting for someone to turn the key. When her father knocked the next morning, he found her art still pinned to the walls, her purse open on the counter, and the air thick, like a room holding its breath. The officer who arrived first said quietly, "It doesn't look like she planned to leave." But someone had. What started as a missing person report would soon fracture a family, divide a town, and expose a truth no one wanted to face. August 13th, 2011, 2 days before her birthday, Caitlyn was supposed to clock in for her morning shift at the bridal shop. She never showed. She never called. Her father, Dave, drove to her apartment. He knew something was wrong the moment he opened the door. The lights were still on. Her car was in the lot. Her purse and phone sat by the counter. But Caitlyn was gone. If you're still here, you're one of us. The ones who never stop asking questions. Make sure you're subscribed. Detectives combed through her messages. No signs of depression. No talk of leaving.
You're willing to do for me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're gonna do this now, or?
We're gonna do it now.
Okay.
Is that something that's okay?
Yeah, I mean, I know I didn't do anything, so I should be good.
Where was John? He told police he'd been asleep at his parents' house, that Caitlyn texted him goodnight around midnight. He said she seemed fine, calm. But when investigators checked his phone, there was a gap.
I lost myself when everything was so real. When the cops walked up and they went into her house and started searching everything, I could not remember anything.
Search teams spread across Fairfield. Drones, dogs, volunteers walking cornfields in August heat. They found nothing. Not a shoe, not a phone case, not a single trace. Every day her father came back to the same apartment, leaving the door unlocked just in case she walked in. And every night he turned on her porch light, a signal that stayed glowing for 2 years. By the second week, police had stopped calling it a disappearance. They called it what everyone feared: a missing person case with signs of foul play. By September, the flyers had faded in the sun. The town of Fairfield had turned into a grid of search zones, but every clue led to nothing. Her photo hung in shop windows beside missing cat posters, a reminder that something terrible had happened in a place that was supposed to be safe. Detectives interviewed John Carter again.
If she is somewhere in the worst case scenario, that she fights her way out. I keep wanting to believe that because she's strong. I know she's strong. So she's got to manage to make...
No cracks in his voice, no panic. Just lines rehearsed like he'd practiced them in the mirror. Police asked him to take a polygraph. He agreed. He failed. Still, there was no body, no crime scene, no physical evidence. Investigators couldn't charge anyone, so they watched him instead. Surveillance footage showed John Carter visiting Caitlyn's apartment several times after the disappearance. Each visit short, quick, always at night. When questioned, he said he couldn't stay away. But neighbors told police they heard garbage bags rustling in the middle of the night and the sound of a car trunk closing. The case became a stalemate. No arrest, no confession. Months turned into years. By 2013, Caitlyn's family was holding memorial walks instead of search parties. And then everything changed. A man walking through a wooded area in Cedar Grove, Indiana, nearly 50 miles away, noticed something pale tangled in brush. He thought it was an animal skull. It wasn't. It was Caitlyn. 2 years after Katelyn Markham vanished, her story was fading from the news. Until April 2013, when a man collecting scrap metal in Cedar Grove, Indiana, made a call that would change everything. He told dispatch, "I think I found a human skull." Police arrived to a dense patch of forest off a rural road, quiet except for birds and the snap of branches under boots. Wrapped in plastic, scattered over a 20-foot radius, lay the remains of a young woman. Forensic teams would later confirm what Caitlyn's father already knew in his gut. It was her. Her bones told a story the apartment never could. She had been dismembered with a saw. Her jewelry was still on her wrist. The plastic wrapping came from a hardware chain located less than a mile from John Carter's home. But without DNA on the wrapping, the case went cold again. A body without proof of who put it there. Caitlyn's family held a vigil at the spot where she was found. His father spoke into the rain. Whoever did this took everything, but they didn't erase her. He promised he would wait as long as it took for justice. Nearly a decade passed. Leads came and went. New detectives, new forensic tech, old questions. Then, in 2023, an anonymous letter arrived at the Fairfield Police Department. Inside were lyrics to a dark poem about Caitlyn's death and a signature, John Carter. That was the spark investigators needed. They reopened the case, dug through old files, and discovered something that had been overlooked the first time. A stain in the carpet beneath Caitlyn's bed that glowed under forensic light. It was blood. March 2023, 12 years after Caitlyn vanished, detectives knocked on John Carter's door. He didn't run. He didn't ask why. He just said, "I knew this day would come."
Inside, they found journals filled with poems about loss, regret, and guilt. One page read, "Her voice went quiet, but it still echoes in my chest." Another, "I cleaned what I could, but not enough." He was arrested and charged with murder. The community that once defended him now whispered a single question. How long had he been pretending? When the case reached court, the evidence was chilling. The carpet stain, the handwriting, the timeline. But something unexpected happened. Before the trial could begin, prosecutors announced a plea deal. Involuntary manslaughter. No life sentence. No trial. just 3 years in prison for taking Caitlyn's life. Her father sat in the courtroom, shaking his head. Reporters wrote that he didn't speak to cameras afterward, just whispered, "It's not justice. It's a wound that never heals." John Carter walked out in handcuffs, eyes down. He would serve less time than Caitlyn had spent in college. Outside the courthouse, people placed candles again, the same as 12 years earlier, but this time they didn't flicker for hope. They burned from memory. Katelyn Markham's story is no longer an unsolved mystery, but it's still an unfinished one. A girl full of light disappeared into a quiet night, and the truth took over a decade to speak. Was it an accident, as he claimed? Or a moment of rage that he spent years disguising as sorrow? Tell me, what do you believe happened that night in Fairfield? Because somewhere in the silence of that unlocked apartment, if you felt Caitlyn's story deserves to be heard, help keep her voice alive. Subscribe, share, and join me next week for another case too disturbing to make it to Netflix.